After 8 months and nearly 39,000 miles sailed around the globe, 4 teams are poised to fulfil their quest to win the world's toughest ocean adventure, the 2011-2012 Volvo Ocean Race. The previously almost invincible team Telephonica had been knocked from their pedestal after leg 7 by a rampant Groupama. But with Puma Ocean Racing and Camper breathing down their necks, the battle for supremacy is far from a two-boat tussle.
This was a leg where conservatism had to go out the window. Not to the point of risking life or limb, that's clear, there's a line there you don't draw, but in terms of where you're pushing the boat to a limit, we were going to be pushing it over that limit.
By comparison, the penultimate ocean leg would be a virtual sprint, nearly 2,000 miles west from Portugal back into the Atlantic and around the Azores, before racing northeast across the Bay of Biscay to Lorient. With so much at stake and extreme weather on the horizon, leg 8 would turn out to be far from easy. After a drag race out towards the Azores, the teams found themselves in drifting conditions approaching the San Miguel Island turning mark. The 6-boat fleet compressed to within just 10 miles as they tacked around the island, completing the first real manoeuvre of the leg. Telephonica just minutes ahead of Groupama and Puma, the teams buckling up as they began the trek back towards Europe and into the teeth of a gale-force storm in the North Atlantic. The North Atlantic storm didn't disappoint, ramping up the fleet to record-breaking speeds. In pole position, Telephonica were first to notch a new record, overtaking the race best of 553 nautical miles set by Camper on leg 1 to Cape Town. But Chris Nicholson's team were quick to hit back with an unbeatable 566 miles in just 24 hours.
So it's pretty exciting out there, Hamish. We're sailing with a fractional spinnaker, a couple of reefs at the main, averaging a little over 25 knots over the ground, which is actually a world record pace for a monohull.
But high speeds come with high risk. The critical decision now for skippers was just how hard the teams could push themselves and their boats before something or someone would give.
There will be tears, the boats will break things, and let's just pray it's not us.
Overall leaders Groupama were the first to strike trouble. Unable to reduce sail, they had to send someone up the mast. The unenviable task falling to bowman Brad Marsh.
To be 30 metres up the top of the mast there in the sea state like that is like being at the top of a fishing rod when someone casts it, you know. The base doesn't move very much, but the top is very exaggerated.
Taking the knife out now. Yeah, I'm cutting the first one now. Cutting. First one gone.
Groupama's woes were just the chance Telephonic had been waiting for, but it wasn't long before they had serious problems of their own.
I was grinding. I look at the Iker and he goes, no rudder.
The Spanish team had snapped a rudder, a complicated enough job to rectify ashore, let alone at sea. But in just 40 minutes, Telephonica were back racing and making a beeline for the centre of the low. Telephonica threw themselves at the challenge, and as the fleet completed heavy weather jives to turn towards Lorient, they were race leaders once more. But unbelievably for the Spanish, lightning was about to strike twice.
Down below, the guys heard the rudder break and fall off, but we didn't know on deck.
For the Spanish, a second round of rudder breakages is more than they can recover from. It's a devastating blow to their hopes to win the leg and potentially to their chances of winning the race overall.
2 broken rudders and a damaged one in 6 hours. The worst thing is that we were racing for the regatta and our chances of winning this are almost nil now. So anyway, a tough day, a difficult day. Of course, we're not happy, far from it, and now all that's left is to try to finish without losing the rudder, so that we have some control and so that the boat can reach the port in good shape and so that all of the crew can reach shore in one piece too.
With Telephonica forced to limp home, Groupama press on and receive a hero's welcome as they lead the fleet into Lorient, their home waters.
c'est sûr que c'est une super opération.
For us, it's been a superb leg. We dreamed about victory in Lorient. It wasn't easy. The last 24 hours were very hard and stressful. We played with fire yesterday evening, but everything's okay now. All's well and we're happy, and the welcome here is just fantastic.
Donc on va faire une belle fête.
It's Groupama's second leg win and sees them tighten their grip on the overall standings, putting them 23 points clear of their nearest rivals, Puma. With just one short ocean leg and 2 import races remaining, Groupama are now poised to claim overall victory in their Volvo Ocean Race debut. But Puma, Camper and Telephonica are all plotting to spoil the French team's party, all in with a chance of claiming the trophy for themselves. So let's get some context for today, and this is the current state of play. Frank Camas leading there, 219 points, so he's got 23 point lead over Puma, and then tied on third and fourth there on 191 points, 28 points adrift. We've got Camper with Emirates Team New Zealand and Team Telephonica all to play for, and if we look over at the import races, well, what a story this one tells, because Ken Reid is sitting at the top very nicely, thank you, having never won one. And how crucial this could be to the entire race couldn't be more revealed by Ike Martinez. 4 times they've come last, and look how dearly that has cost them. As I say, all to play for. From the scoreboard to this fantastic city of Lorient, that's the Citadelle de Port Louis, part of the astonishing history of this great sailing city. And here with their game faces on are the teams heading down towards their boats to compete in what is going to be an absolutely vital import race. Frank Camas, the local home hero, the fans gathering here in Lorient. Mike Sanderson with a little bit of a Wimbledon signing touch. This is Adil Khalid, the first United Arab Emirates sailor, brothers in arms here. Neil MacDonald and his skipper Ike Martinez, Ken Reid from Puma, and the local lads, and they are indeed the heroes. That's Grant Dalton from Emirates Team New Zealand. This is Frank Camas. We'd love to be in that position. Brad Marsh on board Groupama. Camper leaves the dock. They're all heading out there now. And as they left, once they'd gone out in the water, we went out to join Frank Camas. Frank Camas, here you are in home waters, your home port. That must be a nice feeling. How much does the local knowledge help?
For sure, it's helping to have local knowledge, to know the island, to know the current over there. But I'm pretty sure all the other competitors can do the same job. Because there is now we know exactly what will happen today in terms of wind and in terms of current.
Now you've got your home fans are going to be out in force, plenty of people supporting you. Is that good pressure?
Yeah, it's a good pressure for sure. It's we are leading now, so we have to be safe during this import race. No mistakes, and enjoy the race.
Okay, Frank, I wonder if you can give us a little message in French for your fans.
Merci à tout le monde qui est venu ici à Lorient. On a eu beaucoup de monde. On a été super heureux de retrouver nos amis, nos familles après 9 mois de course autour du monde. Et on a vu encore des passionnés de voile autour des bateaux pendant 15 jours. Donc le public français a répondu présent, et c'est un des plus beaux publics de ce tour du monde.
Ok, merci Frank, and we wish you bonne chance.
Merci.
Ken Reid here in France. Now you're having to compete not just against Frank Camas, but also his local knowledge. Have you had your spies out?
You know, it's a pretty open race course, Martin. Yeah, you feel comfortable in your own waters, but I don't think there's a lot in this one, to be honest. We'll see, obviously, but it seems like a pretty fair race course, and most of us have spent a little time out here sailing so far, so we're okay. I think we should be okay.
Okay, now, still so much to fight for.
Yeah, this is life as we know it, you know, but we got to start today. We got to get a couple points. You know, I think a key for us is to get this down to 20 points. We need to get a couple boats in between us and Groupama today, and that's important. You know, everything is kind of divisible by 5 out here, especially these this distance leg that we're going to sail. So we need to get it down to 20 or below today, and that's our goal.
Okay, well, we wish you well. We're looking forward to it. Hope you are too. Thanks, Ken Reid.
Excellent, thanks.
Encore Telefonica with Xavi Fernandez. Xavi, how are you all feeling today going into this race?
Well, it's a nice day for an inshore. Right now we have 12 knots, and well, we're quite confident. We have done the last 4 inshores pretty bad, really. So we really want to do a nice race today, and I think everyone is really into it to have a very nice inshore race today.
Now, in the Pro-Am towards the end yesterday, you showed some very good speed. What did you learn yesterday?
Well, I wasn't on board yesterday, but well, it was windy yesterday, but I think it's not a new thing. We have a nice boat and we have a nice speed, so we just have to be clear and out of trouble, and I hope we will be okay and just go around the course nicely, and I hope we can have a nice result today.
Okay, well, thanks for talking to us in English. Xavi, can you just give us a word for your fans in Spanish, please?
Bueno, hoy tenemos otra regata inshore aquí en Lorient. Hace un día muy bueno para navegar, 12 nudos ahora mismo, y espero realmente que podamos hacer una buena regata. Las últimas no nos han ido muy bien, pero hoy estamos todos, bueno, pues con muchas ganas de darlo todo otra vez e intentar conseguir un buen resultado para el equipo.
Xavi Fernandez, very, very good luck today. Thank you for talking to us.
Thank you very much.
Well, we're broadcasting to you from the Kerguelen Sailing Centre at L'Amour Plage, just outside Lorient. And we've got 4 of us calling the action for you up in the air. Justin Chisholm, the sailing journalist; on the water, Alan Gautier, absolute sailing legend from France. And with me in the commentary box, world champion sailor Peter Lester. Peter, take us through the course and the conditions and what we can expect.
Well, the conditions look pretty nice. It's around 11, 12 knots. Might increase a little bit, but as we come in, we can see we roll over Lorient into the course area. So it's an upwind start, up round that top mark, back through the start-finishing gate. Then we've got the offset leg out around 3, back to 4, around the top mark, back down the bottom mark, offset again, and they're going to finish on that little reaching leg, Martin, between Mark 4 and the start committee boat. The conditions are fabulous and very similar, in fact, to what we had on the practice day, which I was lucky enough to be part of, and pretty fair course by my eye.
Okay, well, out on the water is Alan Gautier, very much in home waters here. Alan, give us your eye on what's happening out there.
Hey, welcome to Lorient, to our nice place, with very nice condition. Perfect, 12 knots, as you say, and a sunny day. The rad of Lorient is really nice in this kind of condition, and we are very happy to have the Volvo here.
Okay, Alan, these are your waters, as we're saying. We talk a lot about local knowledge. How significant is that an advantage, do you think, for Frank Camas and his team?
Oh, sure, it's an advantage to sail here because since 15 years he's training here with Trimaran, with the Volvo 70. And he knows very well this place, but the race is really short, and about option you have not a lot of possibilities, and I think it's an advantage for the French, but not a big one.
So a little bit advantage for these guys. There's Frank Camas on the helm, and in front of us in the green helm, that's in the green hat, that's Van Marsh, who won the award for seamanship after the last leg with his heroics up the mast. We're looking now at a bit of a spectator fleet gathering. This is really an absolute sailing centre for Europe, for France. Amazing place, really. Now, up in the air is Justin Chisholm, who was calling this race, the racing yesterday for the import, with me in the commentary box. What's it like up there for you, Justin, today?
Well, it's another beautiful day out here. The Volvo have worked their magic with the weather. The sun's out, the rain from this morning is gone, and that's enabled a big spectator fleet to come out. There's boats of all sizes here, ribs, yachts, ferries, even some nice old boats for Peter, and it really is pretty spectacular right now.
Okay, and you can see a little warship out there. Well, that's an Irish Navy ship just out on the left-hand side of your picture. That's the SV Ailing, and we had the pleasure of being on board there last night. Really good fun. Now, little double picture here, Camper and Telephonica, both itching to get that extra little advantage. They're both tied on points in third and fourth, and well, we've seen, Pete, that in these import races they have become so important.
Well, the start, we're inside the last minute now. We can see Puma have tacked, so they'll be committed now, time on distance to the line. As Camper come round behind Puma, that would indicate that Nicholson's going to set up on the windward side or closer to the committee boat of Puma. The boats are really committed the way they come in, so we're going to have Groupama to windward, then Sanya. We can see Camper have come in under Sanya, just reducing the gauge, and then down at the pin end is going to be Telephonica. So there's quite a big gap there for speed build for Camper onto Puma, but the start will be crucial. We're coming now down to 21 seconds to go. We can see Camper speed building. Puma absolutely have got to fire a bullet in this one. They haven't won an inshore race. Kenny Reid wanting to get the job done. Well, there's a very late tack there by M. Walker and Abu Dhabi on port. They need to give way. 5 seconds to go. Coming up to the line. They're pretty even. Camper a little bit back forward. As they wind up over the line, it's Camper who get over the line first. And in contention there, certainly Groupama. Not such a good start by Abu Dhabi and Telephonica down at the pin.
Alain Gauthier out there, how did you call that?
Yeah, you know, a nice start, except for Abu Dhabi. I think Telephonica take the lead just at the buoy, but far under the wind. And you know, maybe Camper can oblige to attack Tanya and Groupama. We have to wait. And about the current, you know, the sea will be full at 2:30. The current is in the same way as the wind from the 265, and I think the option for Abu Dhabi to go on the right part of the race is maybe interesting, but they have 4 or 5 lengths of boat late.
Well, that's pretty interesting, eh? That taking a bit of a flyer, Justin, with the bird's eye view up there. How big a gambler? Can you see something that maybe Abu Dhabi is looking for out there on the right-hand side?
Well, it's interesting. I think on the start they pulled the trigger a little bit late. They got themselves into a position where they were just going to be sitting in dirty air. So they decided to bail out early, get themselves onto port tack and head out here to the right. Plenty of breeze out here, looks very solid, but it's all going to be about the shifts, I think.
Peter Lester, we've seen them do a flyer like this before, haven't we?
Yeah, but I think this one, Martin, came about. Abu Dhabi were a little bit caught, but they managed to bail out the way where there'll be less current. And as Elaine was saying, the current is running with the wind, so they're punching into the wind and current. And so Abu Dhabi will be the first boat to get, if there is any tidal relief, over on the right-hand side. And the other thing that's happened off the line, it was a good start by Camper. They were starting to influence Sanya, and Sanya and Groupama were forced to tack away. And Camper and Puma continue on out into more into the left-hand side. Of course, the boats on the left do run the risk of perhaps punching a bit more current. But Martin, this will come down who's got bow forward, who's in a strong position as they come up to the first cross. But we have now quite a distinct split in the field with Abu Dhabi, who tacked immediately off their line to clear their air on the extreme right. And then that group of Camper, Puma and Telephonica quite a long way on the left. So, you know, there'll be a winner and a loser here as we look at the race leader, Groupama. I think the other significant point, Groupama really kept out of trouble, Martin. They didn't want to get in there and tangle because as we look on board with Frank Camas on the helm, they do not want to mix it up and get in a rules situation or a collision situation with the fleet. But Groupama looks pretty potent there up to windward of Abu Dhabi, but I think we're now in a bit of a consolidating part of the race, and as they come up to the cross will be a crucial point.
Okay, Alain Gauthier, we've been looking at some nice pictures of Frank Camas. I'm wondering, you know, from where you sit, Where do you place Franck Camas, you know, in terms of a sort of French sailing legend? You're one of them. I mean, he's up there in your ranks. Where does he sit?
It's a good question, you know, but it's difficult to say exactly. You know, in France we had Eric Tabarly. He sailed on the Whitbread, and he won the transatlantic from UK to USA. He was the first Frenchman to beat the British, and it was a legend for us and a big master. But after you have some guys like Philippe Coupon and Philippe Jantot, and now a new generation. I'm sure Franck Camas is leading this new French generation. He won the Route du Rhum with his big trimaran. He won the Figaro race. In France, for us, the Figaro race is really a very important race to learn single-handed race and to learn how about sailing and a lot of things. And I think Franck is really leading this new generation.
Well, he's certainly an absolutely remarkable sailor, and there he is crossing tacks with well, Abu Dhabi quite a way behind. There is the man himself, Franck Camas. He's already a legend for his long-distance epics and with a shorter crew, and now here he is. He's just been a quite brilliant performer in his debut in this Volvo Ocean Race.
Oh, fantastic! Started off not such a good leg out of Alicante, 9 months ago, but he's just got better and better. And Groupama, fast boat, and very well sailed. It was on board Abu Dhabi. Martin, two distinct groups here. There's going to be a winner and a
big split, isn't it?
Winner and loser group.
Okay.
We've got that group right out mid-channel with Camper probably just holding a slight advantage of a Puma. But then on this group with Groupama, you know, in a very strong position there on Sanya. It's when the two groups converge, what group has been the winning group, what could be the telling point as they come up the first leg.
Okay, let's go back to our man in the sky, our eye in the sky, Justin Chisholm. You've got the best possible view for this. Who do you like the look of?
Well, we're over here with Groupama. We're just in front of their bow right now. What I can see is that Sanya are really struggling to hold their height on Groupama's hip, slowly dropping into them. They're going to be forced to tack away in a little while. Abu Dhabi out on this side really didn't make any impression after that slightly slow start. But I have to say, perhaps this side of the course is looking a little favoured, although the other side is a long way away right now. There's a lot of leverage in this move.
Okay, we're a mile away. We're looking at virtual eyes telling us we're a mile away from the top mark. Alain Gauthier, we're still on the issue of what the currents are doing up here. Which side would you prefer to be?
You know, if the mark will most on the south, I think the option of camper will be very interesting, but to have the lift from the island, you know. But the Mark 1 is not so close to the island, and I think the place to be will be maybe the right, where is Groupama today.
Okay, interesting here. We're on board with Camper. The man in the middle there was a young lad out of Monoprier, one of the three under 30s. And did you notice there, Peter, that he's a world match racing champion, short course champion, and obviously he's having a fair bit of input today by the look of the way that he was chatting.
Yeah, it's certainly Monoprier has a bit to say. I'd say Camper must be close to the ley line, and we can see they're setting up. Camper tactically looked like they wanted to really control Puma. And of course, Puma's one of the boats that they have a chance of gaining some points on if they can beat them in the import, which would set up for a fascinating last leg. So Camper tax, yeah, Puma tax. So this group who went all the way to the right hand, they are very close to that ley line. In the extreme left, we've got the group led by Groupama. So let's think that Camper are winning the division that wanted to go a long way to the left. Groupama are winning the division that's right over here on the right-hand side. So it's when Groupama come back next to Camper, Martin, will probably determine the pecking order at the top mark. With so much leverage or so much separation, it only takes a little bit more pressure, wind speed, or a slight change in wind direction for one of these groups to get very dominant and very strong as Groupama tack and they, I assume, would be pretty close to that ley line. And this will be great. Maybe we can have a bit of a look at virtual now that we've got the boats on converging tacks, and just have a bit of a look. And
well, it's going to be the moment of truth. The moment of truth is approaching, and Justin Chisholm up in the air there. Peter, yesterday when he was in the air, and he's just alluded to it now, that it's going to be who hits the bits of pressure. What are you seeing on the water that's saying what kind of little bursts of breeze there are, and who's best placed to take advantage, do you think?
Well, it's a little bit different to yesterday, but there are some little bullets of breeze coming down the course. Less pronounced than yesterday, I think. Looking now, Groupama are pretty much on the ley line coming in on starboard tack. It's a long ley line call. This is bangthecorner.com time. And again, I agree with Peter. I think Camper look pretty much like they're going to be on the ley line.
Well, we've got the advantage here of looking at virtual, and the animation is showing the advantage line is favouring that group of led by Camper, then we've got Puma, and then thin on the hip of Puma we've got Telephonica. As we look at Groupama, and we'll just look for a bit of a pan shot there. It can play tricks with the wonderful lenses from the heli shot, but we look at Groupama, who we know are very close to this ley line. I think they'll be right on the ley line. Conditions-wise, it's a little bit more seaway running as they head up towards the top mark. But who's going to be strong? And for my eye, Martin, looking at virtual, which we've got that small advantage in the commentary booth, I think it will be Camper who are going to have a slight advantage over Groupama. Groupama, of course, are going to come in on starboard. They have the right of way. This group of Camper and Puma and Telephonica are on port. They're required to keep clear. But of course, if Camper or Puma are bow forward or they're clear ahead, they can just determine and set up for that top mark rounding. What a wonderful shot. We're looking at heel angle and stability there.
Okay, well, we're on board Camper at the moment. Let's go back to Alan Gauthier on the water to get him to paint a little bit of a picture for us as the boats begin to converge on that top mark. You're seeing this with your eye. We're looking at virtual. What are you seeing out there at the moment, Alain?
Yeah, I see we are just following Groupama exactly on the ley line, and for the moment I think Groupama will cross ahead of Camper, but sometimes the wind shifts a little on the left, on the port, you know, and it will be maybe difficult, but for Groupama to pass the mark, but I think it's okay, you know, and maybe ahead of Camper with 20 seconds.
Well, that's amazing boat placing by Frank Camas again. Obviously exercising his local knowledge and his terrific boat speed that we know that they've got on Groupama. And he's doing it again, Pete. He's doing it again.
No, he's, I think, a bit of good speed, obviously, but I think a bit of local knowledge. And Alain really alluded to that off the line, that as we look upwind, on the right-hand side, there's a little bit of tidal relief. Virtual is still showing Camper actually to be slightly bow forward, but of course it's Groupama who have that starboard advantage. Brad Marsh, who's the bowman on Groupama, comes back. He's already soaking wet. We can see the Jenica set up on the foredeck. A little bit of a jobble on as they head up. This cross, Martin, at the top mark will be crucial. It's a big move, but right now we're still playing the waiting game as the boats converge, and we can see it's getting close enough, you know, that Groupama on starboard, although they're showing to be behind on virtual, do have starboard advantage, and that means that this group of Camper and Puma are actually required to keep clear if the boats, if there's an intersection issue. So we look on board Camper, and probably the telltale sign is to look at, we can see Stu Bannatyne there, who's a tactician on board. He'll be actually trying to judge what boat is gaining bearing, whether Camper is moving forward or whether Groupama are moving forward on the bearing. So we can see a bit of movement on Camper. And a little bit of anxiety there. It must be close, so they're all having a bit of a look. bit of a replay, in fact, of the practice race 2 days ago. So Camper, they're going for a sneak. So that would indicate to me that Camper think they've got enough of Groupama, so it's setting up that the red boat, the red boat is ahead. And Virtual had been showing that all the way up the wind, but Camper will have a harder manoeuvre to do than Groupama. A tack set for Camper, a bear-away set for Groupama. But great first windward beat. So it's Camper leading Groupama. Camper won the start. They went all the way over to the left-hand corner, but they are ahead of the current leader of the Volvo, Groupama. Groupama are going to be second, followed by Puma. What a first windward beat.
Terrific first windward beat, and Groupama pretty slow with that manoeuvre there, Alan Gauthier.
You know, yes, I think the wind shifted a little on port, and that's why Groupama was so slow at the end, and Camper was maybe a little over ley line, and they arrived very fast, you know, and it was very nice to see the maneuvers from Campers, perfect, and from now with the Spinnaker, very nice maneuvers, and we have Puma third, pushing maybe Groupama to the mistake, you know, maybe, and it will be a very nice downwind leg.
Okay, Alan, we'll stay with you for a minute. Again, we're looking to you for some local knowledge here. When you're heading back down on leg 2, where would you like to be?
I think, as I say, you know, the current is going to the east now with the wind, and I think the best way is on the port part of the race. There where, you know, on the right when you go down.
So we're on the second leg now. This is the import race, absolutely crucial import race in this fantastic sailing centre of Lorient in France. Camper with Emirates Team New Zealand went round with a 19-second lead over Frank Camas on Groupama, followed by Ken Reid, and Mike Sanderson doing very creditably in Sanya. Iker Martinez, they're continuing their poor import race form, and it's just as we watch Abu Dhabi Ocean Racing going around the buoy, well, they've really paid the penalty of a very poor start. And Pete, well, it's a question now for Camper. Can they defend this? They've got Groupama breathing down their necks, and it's all very, very tight still.
Yeah, it is. It's very tight, and I think the other point, Martin, just hearing your comment on the starts, the start had such a big bearing, and Camper and Groupama got the good starts. Abu Dhabi and Telephonica got really jammed out at the start. Telephonica were really down that pin end, and Abu Dhabi had to tack away, and there were no passing lanes, there were no opportunities. Now what's going to happen now as they go down on this downwind is Camper will be monitoring the ley line, so that's the other jibe that heads towards the mark. And for Groupama, do Groupama simultaneously jibe with Camper to try and put the wind shadow down after the jibe? You can see Groupama setting up on the left-hand side of Camper. That will mean if Camper jibe, Groupama will jibe and look for the wind shadowing effect.
Okay. Our eye in the sky. Our eye in the sky is Justin Chisholm. How are you seeing this now then, Justin?
Well, we were right over the top of the windward mark when the boats arrived. Camper had the more difficult tack hoist to pull off. They did it pretty well, but they did lose a little bit on that because Groupama's bear-away set was a lot easier to do, and they pulled off a pretty good one too. And as you say, they're all heading out now to the extremity of the course, and it'll be all about when they jibe, and Groupama will be looking to jibe and get the cover on them as soon as they can. Perhaps Camper may be eking out a little bit, and as I speak, Sanya are the first person or the first boat to jibe away.
Well, I guess Sanya, that's well, Sanya and Abu Dhabi, they've got you know, they've got to make a bit of a call like that, do they? Yeah,
well, they do. I mean, Sanya, a slightly slower boat, and they know if they just stay in line with these the boats around them, they're probably going to get, you know, they're going to lose basically. But the call coming from the boats now for Telephonica against, for Groupama against Camper, I think they're setting up for what we call a simultaneous or simo jibe. For Camper, the call will be If Groupama jibe early on the ley line, we'll let them go, and this is what Stu Bannatyne will be talking about. But if the boats get to the ley line, then it'll be the old no-look jibe manoeuvre for Camper, so that they can complete the jibe and then get on the new jibe without that wind shadowing effect. So again, it's actually a little bit harder to defend on the downwind than it is on the upwind. It's a bit like the old match racing with that trailing boat, especially with the huge sail plan that these boats have. So it's a big moment there for tactician Stu Bannatyne to defend his lead against Groupama.
I wonder, you know, I was just noticing there, Chris Nicholson on the back of Camper with Emirates Team New Zealand. He was just taking a little, see if we can hear. If we can hear, just wonder if we could get a clue as to what their thinking is from Stu Bannatyne. He's the one who's staring backwards. Chris Nicholson, he's got to keep sailing the boat. Got to concentrate, but oh, it's tight.
You can see how this is setting up now, that the Groupama and Puma are actually soaking down on the inside. So here we go. Here's the move by Camper. No movement by Groupama. But in some ways, you see, Groupama were blocked by Puma. So I think Groupama have said, no, if we go with Camper, we run the risk of Puma coming on our inside and putting turbulent wind down onto Groupama. So it's certainly a bit of a tactical chess game going on here, not only for Camper, but between Groupama and Puma. Just watch here with Groupama jibing. I would predict that, yeah, exactly. And Puma now jibes to windward of Groupama, looking for that wind shadow effect.
Now, does this little contest, Pete, between these two, does this help Camper in some way?
Absolutely, because basically it's putting a bit of a roadblock on Groupama to push forward on Camper. And I think Puma there are in quite a strong position when you look at the relative positioning of the red Jenica of Puma against the white Jenica of Groupama. I actually think Kenny Reid is put himself perfectly on the wind shadowing effect of Groupama.
Alan Gautier, you'll be hearing all this and watching with some fascination this little waterborne game of chess. What do you make of it?
You know, what I've seen, a very nice jibe from Puma, faster as Groupama, and maybe Groupama will be, you know, what I see is, yes, I think Puma pass Groupama, because Groupama is not in a good position now, and maybe Puma will pass on second position at the next mark.
You know, it struck me there, thanks Alan, it struck me there watching as Alan was talking about the jibes there, and what we haven't mentioned, and we should, is watching these guys in action, is that there aren't many of them.
No, there's not, but Martin, there's the telltale sign that Puma have put the gas breeze or the wind shadow down onto Groupama with the collapsing of the Jenica on Groupama. That's come about because of the turbulent wind coming off the sails of Puma. Now, it's really now a game of trying to minimise the loss for Groupama. They just don't want to get blown completely out the back, because when you have an ineffective sail plan working, it's very hard, obviously, to build speed. And Kenny Reid, his predicament is, can he actually roll round the front of Groupama before they get to the zone or the giveaway portion at the bottom mark as they come down to Mark 2? The leading boat, of course, Camper, are saying, thanks very much, Ken Reid. You've actually probably given us a little bit of a buffer.
Well, it's not a huge buffer, because that picture from the helicopter, and these are fabulous pictures that were being given here from you. Justin, we're enjoying looking at the pictures that you're providing. What it must be like, you're absolutely in the airborne box seat up there.
Yeah, best seats in the house, as Peter said yesterday. What I can see is that Camper have been able to sail their own race a little bit now. All the boats trying to work down in each of the gusts. And the boat that's actually doing that the best is Telephonica. Some fresh breeze coming down from behind, and they're sailing as fast as the guys in front of them, but slightly lower, a better angle.
Martin, well, just looking at this now, actually the little tactical pendulum between Puma and Groupama, it's gone back to Groupama now, because with quite an aggressive move by Kenny Reid to roll over the top of Groupama, he sailed a little bit hot. He sped the boat up a little bit, but in doing so, he sailed away from the marker a little bit. So that, even though Puma got over the top, I don't know if they're going to have enough to get round that Mark II ahead. And while this has all been unfolding, of course, Telephonica have really been able to sail their own course. No change at the front with Camper ahead, but the real battle is between Puma and Groupama, and Puma really aggressively trying to roll right round the bow of the green boat of Groupama. But it's the boat on the inside, which is the white spinnaker of Groupama. If the boats are overlapped, and that doesn't show they're overlapped, does it? It looks like, no, I think it looks like Ken Reid, of course, with his match racing experience.
It is a Mexican right now, yes.
Well, I think a lot of the body language is telling us a story there as well. He just looks so determined. There's the mark that we're coming down to now. And Telefonica's got right back into this as well. They're just, well, that boat just flies when they get the proverbial bit between the teeth. Rolling into the jibe now on board Camper. This is going to be really crucial. This is all about too few people trying to do a complicated manoeuvre, and it's got to go right.
Yeah, it is, and an early call there. I could hear a Mexican call from Kenny Reid, which my part of the world, we call that a Kiwi. Camper have gone for actually quite a conservative drop, a leeward drop. Just watch Puma. What they're going to do is drop on the leeward side and then jibe inside the red Jenica to let it come onto the windward side, although it's turned into a similar manoeuvre as it's come about from Camper.
But they're towing a bit of water in there. This is a slow manoeuvre from Puma.
Well, Puma are still in consolidation mode over Groupama, so Puma have got round Groupama. We're at Mark II. And, well, there's a bit of a problem there. Look at the Genoa on Puma. Yeah. It looks like the sheet was over the spinnaker.
Sheet,
And Puma, a little bit, they're going to be a bit messy as they exit. Kenny Reid fights with the helm. The Genoa is, look, the Genoa is not sheeted on. This will open up another opportunity for Groupama to sail through to leeward of Kenny Reid. So Puma are wounded as they come round Mark II. The team are under pressure. They've lost the jib sheet.
Well, what a shambles that's going to be, and there'll be words exchanged. There'll be words coming off the helm from Ken Reid. We can be assured of that as Groupama scoot through. Alain Gauthier out on the water. Drama.
Yeah, I'm surprised to see what's happened on Puma, you know, but big mistake. I don't know exactly what's happened on the Genoa sheet, but that's sure it was wrong. And Groupama passed, you know, quickly on the leeward port, pass on the leeward from Groupama, from Puma, and very disappointed, I think, on board Puma, because it was a big mistake.
Action 2 with Telephonica. Call us through this one, Alain.
And a very nice passage, you know, here with 3 boats, and it's fantastic to see the 3 boats really close. With Telephonica beaten by Abu Dhabi. Abu Dhabi come back very well on the downwind leg, and now Telephonica is 6, and the third leg is really short, you know. You see that as me, and I think the next mark will be interesting between Sanya and Telephonica.
Okay, well, this is... It's just that these import races just get more and more intriguing, and sadly for Telephonica, they're back. This could, at the moment, well, they're last, and it's hard to say, and it's just quite extraordinary, Pete.
Well, their form on Telephonica import has been poor. And they've really not really fired a shot in port. They've had the issues. And on that one, Ian Walker used beautiful positioning on that leg too, to get on the inside with the zone advantage to lock Telephonica out at the mark. So Ian Walker, he didn't get a great start, but he's got one back here over Telephonica. Sanya trail these 2 boats. But it's certainly been all on, and that's a mistake by Puma at that Mark II. Boy, that was a costly one. In context of the race, you know, with the points being so close, as we look at Ian Walker. Ian Walker's objective, Martin, at the skipper's press conference was to try and be the top inshore boat. This is not helping him. He hasn't had a good start, and he's got a lot of work to do to get back in contact with Camper as they come ripping into Mark IV. as they harden up on the wind. So it's Camper leading from Groupama, then followed by Puma. And the action has really been between Groupama and Puma.
Well, and that's helped this, as we use the expression, rich get richer, and it's taken a while for that sort of money bags element of it to mature, but certainly the battle between Groupama and Puma, Ocean Racing powered by Berg, that sure has helped Camper with Emma's Team New Zealand. And as you look up the course from your position up in the sky, Justin Chisholm, what do you see?
Well, we're with the boats as they're rounding the turning mark to go back upwind. I have to say that that game by Abu Dhabi was all about the ley line that was called from about halfway down the course. They absolutely nailed that, came in hot with lots of speed, did a great drop, and were able to capitalise on a very lacklustre bit of boat handling from Telephonica. They a slow drop and managed to twist the headsail around the headstay, and were very slow into that mark.
Ian Walker there at the helm of Abu Dhabi. Well, he's, as Pete was saying, a point to prove in, really trying to get up at the top of that inshore. But this isn't doing him any good, and at the moment, it's looking all good in that series, I guess, for Camper.
Well, yeah, Ian Walker always looks tidy inshore, but these races are pretty short, and it comes down to the start. The other thing that's going through my mind, Martin, is going back, it was a good start by Camper and Puma. Camper were pretty strong on staying with Puma all the way over to that ley line to dictate terms, and it was like pick your opponent, and it looked like Nicholson was pretty keen to drive one home against Kenny Reid as we go on board Telephonica. Martin, they've had just a shocking set of import races, and it hasn't really got a hell of a lot better for them today.
Well, not if it stays the way it is, but this is early. Well, I know this is only a short race, but in some ways we can always refer to this as early days, because we've seen some astonishing things in these import races as we've travelled around the world with the Volvo Ocean Race, and still on board here with Telephonica grinding in. This is the extra work that they have to put in. They normally sail these boats 70 foot, you'd sail it with 17 or 18 people, not 10. So that's some indication of how many people's work each of these guys is having to do, and you can see them sucking in the breath on board Telephonica, which is now languishing, I think, in, are they still fifth? They're fifth, I think, at the moment, so it's still Sanya. Well, here's Sanya bringing up the rear. Well,
obviously Sanya had a problem.
Yeah, they must have had a problem.
We could probably go back out on the water. Elaine, what happened to Sanya? We've missed that one. Something obviously went wrong for them.
We were too far, because I think before the mark they have a problem with the keel maybe, but I don't know exactly why. You know, I don't know. They was really close to Telephonica, and in 2 minutes and 3 minutes the boat was stopped, but I don't know what's happened. Sorry.
Well, I think we're hearing through our headsets here that we think that they lost a sheet in one of the tacks, and was hooked up during attack, and well, that just shows how costly they can be. These boats are so fast, they quickly make a gain.
Well, it's interesting, both Sanya and Puma have had issues with the jib sheet getting hooked up at crucial time on mark rounding. We go back to virtual, and the boats are now stacked up. They're heading on leg 5 up to that top mark again, as Camper, I had them 25 seconds ahead at that bottom mark, Martin, and barring something going wrong, I think the red boat looks in a pretty strong position.
Okay, well,
but it'll be really fascinating to look between Puma and Groupama, whether they can get back close together again, and we might see some more action.
Okay, that's Craig Satterthwaite. There must be a spectator boat out there, and he's the indication there is please get out of the way. Although if you can lip read, it might have said something a bit more significant. Now, we're talking, Alain, about Camper looking strong. What do they need to do to protect where they are, and where can you see maybe Frank Camas trying to come back at them?
It will be difficult, because I think Upwind Camper is really a very good boat, and you know, I think Groupama attack to protect the position compared to Puma, but they have more attacks to do, and maybe Abu Dhabi try to go to the next mark with just one tack, we have to follow that. But I think Camper should stay ahead at the next one.
Lovely shot there as we come to Camper. Darryl Wislang on the bow, just sorting out sheets and braces. While I've been going on this upwind leg, that the downwind sail, the A2, goes down below. Mammoth job to repack it. And what's happening here is the spinnaker gear is just being re-led. They'll go up round the top mark and then run down towards the start pin gate. So Camper they look pretty comfortable there. But to me, Martin, tactically, when we look at the context of the race, the closest boat to Groupama is Puma. And I think Drake Camas, he's not too worried about Camper. They're a number of points behind overall. We're looking at the big picture. So Groupama pretty keen just to extend their lead over second place getter, really Puma.
I don't know where Puma is at the moment, but it's out to Lewin. Got the Camper up here. Got about 8 minutes to the top mark here. Puma is down to Lewin. I don't know where. I haven't seen them since they tacked, so probably 2 minutes down there. Yes. Straight up attack to get the kite up and back. Okay, it's a bit of a rush. It's clear. It's 3/4 clear. So just the back, the front that's a little bit covered.
A breathless conversation on board Groupama there, and you can hear how hard these guys are working physically and mentally, trying to think ahead and make those manoeuvres as smoothly as they possibly can. And Camper here, that's our leader down below. Adil Khalid there, as Pete was saying, really trying to, it's a mammoth job trying to be down there. And 1 minute you're getting soaked up on top with the waves coming over the boat. Next you're soaking in sweat trying to get these sails packed. It's a big of a job.
Big sail A2, so the coding is an A2. And it's the series, it's a B, so they've obviously had an A at some stage. But you go from being pretty cool on deck to down into the hot sauna down below in Abu Dhabi.
No wonder they call it a sewer.
It's really crucial that sail gets packed correctly, so there's no twists in the sail when it's hoisted, and also that the sail for the hoist has to be put back in that bag, and it can't just be stuffed in the bag. It's got to have no twists in it. And they've still got plenty of work to do. They're about halfway up the windward beat. Adil Khalid, who's the Emirati on board. You can see that's just struggling to get it back in there, kicking it in. They've nearly got it finished, Justin Slattery just struggles.
It's a shocking job.
And, they've got to get angry with them to get them back in. They're heavy, they're wet, you're hot. Hands are getting knocked around. We can see there the head of the A2 has been wooled, so that's contained with woolen ties, so that when the sail is hoisted, it doesn't balloon before you, or set, before you need to use the sail. But Groupama, Martin, have got a good, comfortable lead there over Puma. And look, the pattern is set. Groupama not too worried about Camper. They're really giving this race to Camper. But they have, Frank Camas has tacked right on the bow of Puma as they come around. The hard work of grinding on the runner, and the Genoa sheet comes in short-handed. As we look at Groupama come back on the wind, Camas just has a look behind. Relative position, how are we looking on Puma? I'd expect Camper to reciprocate, and really they'll put themselves in a position of Mark 5, and Groupama in a it's the old put yourself between the opposition and the mark. So
the old covering tactic. And so Alain Gauthier back out on the water there. Have we seen a bit of a breeze build here? Are the conditions staying stable? Are there any nasty surprises in store, do you think?
Oh, no. I don't think with westerly wind like we have today, the wind stay at this kind of force, and maybe increase during the afternoon, but the race will be stopped, will be finished. And I think we stay with this kind of condition. Very, very nice condition. just a word we can talk about Groupama. You know, Frank Hamas decided to have the crew for the import race and to have the same crew for the next leg, and that means that Jean-Luc Nelias is not on board today and will be not on board for the next leg. That was a surprise this morning to see the crew list, but it's a choice from Groupama, from Frank Hamas, sorry.
Do you know why that choice was made, Alain?
No, I am not in the secret, you know, but I think I think Frank decided to have the import crew and to preconize, you know, he want to win this race, to this import, to sacrifice maybe the post of navigator. But on board Groupama, you have another guy named Charles Caudelier, and he will be the navigator for the next leg.
Well, certainly we'll be talking more about the next leg tomorrow when we get ready for the start for the leg up to Galway.
We had a good gain on Puma at the bottom mark. There they had some bad luck and lost the jib sheet, and we had a nice rounding. Just coming up to the top mark in second, looking in good shape, and we're doing what we have to do today, so it's good for all of us.
Well, that summed up what you were saying very neatly there, Pete.
No, I think Groupama will be delighted. They got a good start, solid start. They didn't go for the start win, and they really capitalised on that mistake of Puma at the bottom mark. And you know, if Groupama, if we look ahead, if they really get a podium finish in this import race, it just consolidates their very strong position of winning the Volvo Ocean Race of this edition. And it just gets harder and harder for the rest of the fleet, because the boat that's second is in third position. I think that you know, with the way this has played out today, it is really played in the hands of Camper, because of course they're going to close the gap just a little bit on Puma. As
well,
Camper,
you say it is just a little bit, but you know, all these points are getting more and more crucial as we reach the very, very sharp end of this race. How significant do you think, Pete, that Alain before talked about the fact that, you know, upwind this, we know that Camper's a pretty good boat. They haven't really had to sail on their weakest point much today.
No, well, this is more of a classical inshore race, upwind start. It's really a windward leeward with a bit of a dog leg in it. As Camper setting up, we can see they sneaked the A2 on the inside of the Genoa if it's a port approach. So that means when they tack on the mark onto starboard, the sail is protected while it's there, and it just reduces the hoist time once they round the mark. So Chris Nicholson and the team just wanting to consolidate. They were dead keen. They've trained hard to try and you know, they want to keep accumulating points, and I know since they arrived here in Lorient, they've been very focused on this import race. They're still looking to get a podium finish before Galway.
Okay, up in the air, we're with you at the moment, Justin, as we pull back from the bow of Camper. I was asking Alain if he could spot any surprises. He seemed to think it all looked fairly clear. Would you concur with that?
Well, that's right. That beat was all about fleet management. Stu Bannatyne wasn't going to let anybody slip from his grip on such a simple leg. So Camper maybe extended slightly as they go around the top mark, as Group Arm attack now, and they'll set up for the hoist and head downwind.
I think Camper had a little bit of an issue
here. I was just wondering
Adam Minoprio, I think she did actually come off the A2 off the Jenica, and Minoprio, good reactions, jumped in there and snapped the snap shackle back onto the clue of the Jenica, and that's what that has meant for Camper. It's a bit of a slow hoist. They're still safe. The sail is up on Camper now, their downwind sail. We can see the Genoa being dropped. So Groupama behind Camper. Third will be Puma. That little mistake at the bottom mark, well, the jib sheet coming off, pretty costly. In terms of well, today's import race, but in terms of the overall race, Martin, it's those small things that can be, you look at the end tally and you go, well, if we hadn't have done that, maybe we could have moved up a place.
Well, also, I mean, that could have been really costly for Camper too. If,
it could have, but it was a good recovery.
Good recovery. But I mean, it's the speed. The speed, you get punished so hard, don't you? Because the boats are so quick, and a mistake is so costly.
yes, and we're on board Abu Dhabi. As they come in, I think Ian Walker did a pretty nice job at the bottom mark against Telephonica. They had the last down leg when they went from this mark down on the downwind leg under their yellow Jenica. They managed to get round Telephonica. But as was said at Skipper's press conference by Ian Walker, these boats are complex. They're difficult to sail because of the short-handed nature, and you're only one episode away from a disaster if something goes wrong, and it could have been very costly for Camper if Monoprio hadn't have got that sheet back on.
Okay, on board now with Abu Dhabi Ocean Racing. Ian Walker swings it around Mark 5 and a 2-minute plus deficit from the leader, which is Camper Emirates Team New Zealand. Another lovely aerial shot as we watch the engine room furiously pumping away on board Abu Dhabi Ocean Racing, and you can see from that shot there that they are a pretty long way behind, and there's not a lot of water left as Ike Martinez brings Telephonica round, and whoa, it's been another shocker for the guys on the blue boat.
Well, it's amazing to think that this boat dominated at the halfway point of the Volvo Ocean Race, and there's a little bit of a twist. Well, I thought it might have been a twist. Actually, what it was those retaining wools that they used just to contain the head of the Jenica in the pack, so that it doesn't deploy before you need it. One of them was just holding up a little bit as Telephonica. But Martin, just talking back of this boat, only 3 months ago we were looking at a possible race winner, and these import races have really been the Achilles heel of Telephonica.
Well, if I was quicker in the head with the sums, I could tell you that they've lost an absolute wad of points. I mean, last 4 times, that's been pretty grim, and this is going to be looks like if it stays like this, they're going to be second last, and they'll be pretty well gutted by that, because that is going to drop them off that top 3 in the inshore podium, if you like, and make it even harder for them to get on the overall podium too. So this is the state of play at the moment. Chris Nicholson is leading this import race here in Lorient, and we should mention, that we've seen a big spectator fleet out here, and Alain Gauthier, how big for Lorient, for the Volvo to be here in terms of the importance of Lorient in sailing in France?
Lorient is really a big city for offshore racing, for sailing for everybody, a big school for sailing, and Lorient is, I think, the best way to learn sailing, to see a very nice boat, and we have a nice bay. We have, during winter, that's sure the weather is not fantastic, but as you know, in New Zealand, it's interesting to learn sailing when the conditions are not perfect. But no, we have a lot of very good things to sail, and I think it's amazing to see so much people here on the bay. And to come back on, I was really surprised about the Telephonica at the start with a non-aggressive position, I was surprised to see Telephonica really under the other boat at the start, and as you say, it was really a big surprise to see Telephonica coming down and down and down since the middle of the race.
It's a strange situation sometimes, and not just in ocean racing, but in sport in general. Sometimes the mojo gets lost somewhere down the track, and interesting talking to there with Alain Gauthier about Lorient and its sailing sort of heritage, if you like. Here, Pete, in Lorient, the schools teach sailing. They teach 2,000 kids a year. School children learn how to sail free. It's no wonder that there's a pretty hefty interest here in the whole sport here, and you can see as we look down the aerial shot there and looking around from here, the number of boats out on the water, especially though to watch their local hero here, Frank Camas. And if Frank Camas can win this, and he's looking better and better, and he's got a huge flotilla of supporters behind him, if he can win this, what's it going to mean, you know, to his reputation if he wins this one on debut? I mean, he's a legend already.
Well, you know, Frank Camas now in France is a legend, as you say. When you won Trophée Jules Verne, when you won Route du Rhum, you have a big, you know, in France the citizens like a single-handed race, and when you won a Route du Rhum, you are a star. But now, if Frank Camas won this Volvo Ocean Race, I think it will be another time for him to come closer to the top. And I think in his mind, the next way can be the Olympic Games. You know, the ISAF decide to have a new series with mixed. A female and a male on the catamaran, and I think Frank Camas have the possibilities and the mind to go to the Olympic Games.
I was going to ask you what he might do next. Thanks for providing the answer.
Well, I was at the skipper's press conference 2 days ago, Martin, and you know, as Alain has just said, that's exactly what Frank Camas said. He said, well, maybe there's an opportunity to put an Olympic campaign together in the mixed multi-hull. He certainly has all the ingredients with his multi-hull experience, and more importantly, I think he's quite a small guy, and the weight the weight distribution on that double-handed multi-hull, I'd assume Alain, just correct me if I'm wrong, but Camas being so small, he'd make an ideal helmsman on a mixed multi-hull if he did an Olympic campaign.
Yes, I think Frank have the good weight. And the next catamaran will be a small catamaran, and maybe he can do the campaign with his wife, Aline, because Aline is a very good windsurfing, you know, competitors, and she wins some titles. And why not Mr. and Mrs. Camas at the next games?
Well, we might have a bit of a scoop going on here, you know, while we just go back to the import race here in Lorient.
Stu Bannatyne.
He'll be happy with his work. They worked hard in the practice day. The combination certainly between Nicholson and Bannatyne, they were working hard on their attention to detail and accuracy, and it's really played out for them pretty nicely today, Martin, especially with the battle behind them. It's on that first, on the second leg between Puma and Camas. I think that gave a little bit of a buffer to the red boat.
Interesting that on the back of the boat there in the shot just before on camper, we could see the boss of Emirates Team New Zealand, and I wonder what it feels like when you've got him on the back of the boat, you know, the boss there, where you're trying to produce a win. Well, you can't do better than a win, really, so maybe he'll be a little less grumpy than he has been of late.
I was actually out on camper for that practice day, and Grant, he chips away, you know, trying not to interfere or for Bannatyne or Nicholson to hear, but he was certainly chewing my ear about what was going on, and of course Grant's always good fun to be around, great sailor. But look at this, Martin, advantage line here. Are we looking at something special for Camas as they come into bottom
done it again.
I think the green boat have snuck through. They have. There's a lead change. So Camper have let Groupama roll them on the downwind, and Groupama just have done the business as they come into the mark. They're coming into mark, we're on leg 6, into the pin mark, so we've got a lead change. Camper have been rolled here by Groupama, so the race winner takes the lead in the Lorient import race, and Camper, look, they've had a bit of a shocker. The Jenica is stuck in the rig. I think it'll come down, but while we're nattering away, Groupama, they extended, they got in a bit of a lane of pressure, and they've rolled Camper into that bottom mark.
Very good.
I was going to say, local knowledge again.
A very good ley line for Groupama, you know, because the Camper forced to go downwind, you know, and they jibe too early, and Groupama made a very, very good ley line, and they arrived with full speed. And Camper want to go downwind more, but it was not a good ley line for Camper.
So a mistake by Camper. They did not pick the correct ley line to the bottom mark. Groupama sailed a little bit more on starboard. When they came back on port at a tighter angle, they had better speed, better pressure, and they got the leg. And we're so far into this race, Martin, we've only got this little short offset leg, and then they come to the finish. So wow, this is a big victory for Groupama. They were back in third at one stage, and now they're going to they're in the lead. From Camper looking pretty comfortable. They're behind as we look at Abu Dhabi coming into Mark 6. So coming into Mark 7, it's Groupama who have rolled Camper, and Camper have been caught right up by Puma. So the leader is now around Mark 7, and they're on the little offset leg to the finish.
Well, they'll be kicking themselves on that Spanish-Kiwi combination of
well, they made a mistake.
They made a mistake, and it's well, and how dear are these mistakes? This is the issue. So we can hear a lot of banter coming off the boats now. Look how tight it is.
They're off to the finish. This is it. And at this angle, no passing lanes, Martin. I think this wonderful team of Groupama are going to win this import race, extend their lead overall in the Volvo Ocean Race. They were back as far as third at one stage. And, you know, they've made their gain both times at that bottom mark. On their bottom mark approach, they capitalised on Puma having a mistake with their jib sheet coming undone on the first downwind leg, and they capitalised on Camper, who really underlaid the mark, and it meant that Puma could just come in there to gain the lead at that crucial time.
You know, when you race against Frank Camas, you have to know he never let go. You know, you have to learn that he never let go. Even in other sport, when you do sport with him, he never let go.
Well, it ain't over till it's over. That's what we keep on hearing, and that is the mantra in all sport, and that is an astonishing display as we come to the finish line of this amazing import race.
Oh, it's been a great race. Lovely venue, beautiful start, beautiful conditions, and it's Groupama who got a lovely start. They got back, but Groupama take this one out, and they will be delighted. Big hugs, Brad Marsh, and of course, it's those victories when you come from behind that are so sweet.
Sweet indeed. The hometown heroes, how much more complete can they be? Camper crosses the line second. Boy, will they be kicking themselves at the idea of losing that champagne moment. And hard on the heels comes Puma Ocean Racing, powered by Berg. And, well, it's been another astonishing import race. They're just, well, they ain't over till they are over. And Camper will be certainly ruining that. But for Frank Camas and his boys, just an astonishing display. What's your verdict there, Alain Gauthier?
Oh, you know, as everybody, I watch a very, very nice race. And as I say, when you have Camas behind you, you have to be really care. He never let go, and you have to never make some mistake. And if you do a little mistake, he will be there. I know that. You know, we were we were a rival a long time, and I know that. And it was a very nice race. All the crew of Groupama made no mistake, you know, and good start, a solid start. Good option on the right, but at the end of the first leg, you know, a little shift give the lead to Camper, and on the last leg, Groupama make a very, very good ley line, and well, a big bravo to Frank Camas and his crew.
Bravo, bravo indeed. We're watching Abu Dhabi cross the line, but significantly they are behind Telephonica, who climbed back up to fourth spot. Again, never giving up for once, and well, just as Slattery there, his face is telling it that, you know, a bit of a disappointment there. They thought they had the fourth sewn up.
They did, Martin, but just reflecting on that race and a wonderful victory for Groupama. And what this team did, actually, they didn't do anything special, but they capitalised on other people's mistakes. The reason they won the race is they were solid. They got a solid start, and they just capitalised on Puma making a mistake, and they capitalised on Camper actually misjudging that ley line to the bottom mark, and the mistake Camper made would have been made like 5 minutes before that bottom mark, when they couldn't actually lay the bottom mark at the right angle on that final approach. So Groupama really sailed a very, very solid race and just absolutely were brutal and capitalised on other people's mistakes.
Waving to all their supporters out here on the water in Lorient, and they are here in their thousands. And it's well, you can see, look, the hugs still carry on. This has been, well, it's really one hand on the trophy.
Well, it is, Martin, and of course come from behind victories are so sweet. And in many ways, you look at the race, the way it unfolded, it was all looking like a race for Camper, but they blew it. But this team, I think their strategy, and Frank Camas said it at the skipper's press conference, was to keep out of trouble. They achieved that goal, but they also achieved the goal of capitalising on pretty major mistakes by two of their key opposition.
And how they will be feeling those errors on board the other boats. But Justin Chisholm up in the air, that a little summary of the race from your perspective, high in the sky.
Yes, well, from a very close start, a big split on the first beat. All looked good for Camper. They held on to all of that downwind, and on that the final leg down, they knew they were in trouble for about 10 minutes as they jibed over towards the finish line. They timed their jibe too early. They were struggling to get down to Groupama, who had nailed the ley line, and they just came storming in, and that really was, they were in trouble for a long time. So great win for Groupama. I can see them below us waving to their fans. We're about to hoist the import race winners flag, and big celebrations in Lorient tonight.
Champagne's about to be popped, and I mean, this is it. Alain Gauthier couldn't be more perfect for these guys in home waters.
Yeah, you know, it's very, very nice for the team, and to start for the next leg tomorrow with 2 points more, you know, 25 points ahead the second. It's really comfortable. You have to be safe, and I think when you watch the next weather forecast for tomorrow and the day after, with west-southwest wind, the best wind for Groupama, I think Frank Camas and his crew can be confident.
I think we've got a little bit of a picture there being taken of one of the guests on the wheel there on Groupama. Okay, let's see if we can go over to Chris Nicholson on Camper. Chris Nicholson, are you there with us now? Chris Nicholson, are you hearing us?
Yeah, I can hear, man.
Okay, well, commiserations, because that was one that got away.
Yeah, geez, you know, like we said, we snatched defeat from victory there. You know, just the ley line coming in on that last run, we jibed pretty much where we had on the leg before, and you know, slightly different wind shift, but you know, Groupama hung in all the time behind us, just if there was a slight gap, ready to bounce.
Now, it was certainly your race there for the taking, and for most of the time you appear to get it right. I mean, we saw the error at the end, but you know, overall, how are you feeling about where you're positioned now? I mean, it is another podium spot. You are second.
Yeah, you know, that needs about another hour or two to cool down, to be honest with you, because you know, like we had this race, like we sailed 95% of it spot on, and we, you know, unfortunately let ourselves down a bit towards the end.
Now, A, you're going to have to look for positives, and B, you're going to have to prepare yourselves for tomorrow, and there's still so much to fight for. There are still 2 more races.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, like, and we only just spoke that like we felt good all week. We felt good in the pre-start work today, and we did the bulk of it right. And you know, we came out with a second, so we got points on the guys we need to. But you know, now there's a lot of points on the line tomorrow on the offshore.
Okay, we wish you well with it, Chris. Commiserations again, but it's second. You're on the podium and looking good on the inshore series.
Yeah. Thanks, Martin. Cheers.
Well, I don't need to elaborate on that. I think the tone of Chris Nicholson's voice said absolutely everything as we look at the spectator fleet in that huge wash. The champagne moment on board Groupama, absolutely extraordinary. And well, I mean, these are they. The word, Pete, that keeps coming to me is complete.
Martin, in my summary, I think you know, just solid race, and they just watched the opposition around them get into trouble, and really they got handed the race. I mean, I don't necessarily think, well, I know from the skipper's press conference, Frank Camas was not hell-bent. He didn't have to win this one. But of course, isn't it sweet for him? You know, the champagne moment tells it all. To win the import race, they're the leader of the Volvo Ocean Race, and you win your home match. I mean, I think that's fantastic for him.
What an amazing image, Alain. We're looking, well, here are the scores. Let's go, they're calling them provisional results. That's what we've seen. So Frank Camas takes maximum points, gets the 6th with Groupama sailing team. Camper with Emirates Team New Zealand. We've just heard from a shattered and disappointed Chris Nicholson, letting that one slip through their fingers. But it's still good for them in terms of where they stand on the import series, and it also keeps them in that top 3 on the overall podium. Ken Reid will be disappointed, but he's doing a pretty neat job. Ike Martinez got one back, but oh, how disappointing they've been in these import races. This is the overall here. Well, Groupama, I say one hand on the trophy. How can anybody get past them, Pete?
Well, unless they break, I think they've got this one done and dusted, almost. But these are funny old boats, and it is an ocean race that they've got to do. But yeah, they look solid.
Okay, Ken Reid on board Puma Ocean Racing, powered by Berg. Kenny, your face is telling me a pretty big story itself. And I mean, a 3rd is a podium, but you don't look a particularly happy chap.
Yeah, it's. We've been watching a little bit of Wimbledon, you know, in between in the evenings when we get home, and they have a statistic that comes up called unforced errors, and we'd have a big number 1 next to that. It's just we had a really good first run, and you know, got ahead of Groupama there, and just, you know, that's all it takes is one mistake, and instead of being in control of them and being able to make their day a little painful, they could do the opposite, and they certainly did that to us.
Well, they were looking horribly complete, it has to be said, but at the same time, it's not over yet.
No, it's not over. I just heard you say they have one hand on the trophy. I think they got a hand and a half on the trophy right now. These guys are sailing good, and when we make mistakes, they're always there to capitalize, you know, and I give them credit. And yeah, this is a tough one for us, I have to admit.
Okay, now, obviously, you know, you're going to have to bounce back. How do you do it?
Well, Christ, we bounced back from our mast laying in the water in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. I think if we can bounce back from that, we can bounce back from this.
And well, we wish you well in that race tomorrow. And I mean, it's still there.
Well, they're going to have to make a colossal error, an act of God or something, you know. But yeah, you never know. Look at Telephonica on that last leg. They had a little lead, and things started falling off the boat left and right. So it's not, you know, it's going to be a breezy. It could be a breezy leg. So things break when there's breeze.
Okay, yeah. So you are the Puma, ready to pounce?
We're always ready to pounce. I just wish they'd give us a shot.
Kenny Reid, thanks for talking to us, and good luck tomorrow. A gent there, you have to say. I mean, it's always hard to talk to people when they're gutted by something, but Ken Reid, ever the sportsman, to give us an accurate summation of his feelings. And look at the Armada chasing Groupama. I guess this is not that unusual a sight for you here in Lorient, Alain Gauthier, in terms of the successes that you've enjoyed on these waters, all you French guys.
Sorry, Martin?
I'm saying there's a huge armada following Groupama, but you've seen sights like this before here in Lorient.
Oh yes, we have since a long time ago, when during the Transat Lorient-Les Bermudes-Lorient in 1979, when after 20 days of racing, a two-handed race, you know, Eric Tabarly was beaten by Eugène Rouy-Guidel by 4 minutes or 5 minutes after 20 days, you know. And the Bay of Lorient was incredible, you know, the finish line was completely full with a lot of boats, you know. At this period, you don't have a service of Marshall so big as now. And it was incredible to see the finish of this race in 1979. It's a long time ago.
Well, it's history repeating, if you like, in terms of the sights that you're seeing here, because we do know that, you know, Lorient is absolutely huge here, and the sailing. Look at all the boats out here. You know, there's 8 marinas here, 3,000 berths, and a monstrous waiting list. So you can see that the love of the sea that they have here in Lorient. And if you're still with us up in the air there, Justin Chisholm, it's a sight.
Well,
yes,
this is just incredible. I think it's going to be hard for Groupama to get a better moment than this, even if they do lift the Volvo Ocean Race trophy, which I think they have their fingertips on right now. It's a fairy tale story for Frank Camas in his home port, and it looks like everybody's come out to wish him well.
Well, perfect sunny day. Now, you're probably wondering why we're not talking yet to Frank Camas, and we're having a few technical issues. You can see people with headsets on looking concerned, trying to make things work. And it's in fact, I think that might well have been one of the guests trying to help out a bit, doing a bit of polishing for us. That could possibly, I think, maybe be Sylvain Burel, who's head of Groupama Communications. So she'll be keen for us to get a word with Frank Camas if we possibly can. So we're trying to bring him to you if we can possibly make it. This is the Irish Navy ship Ailing, and we were underneath yesterday. This is going to escort the fleet some of the way back to Galway. She's based in Cork in Ireland, has a personnel of around about 45 to 47 people, and does general patrol work off the sort of around the 200-mile limit, giving us a bit of a wave there. Thanks, boys. We really enjoyed our night last night with some of the black stuff underneath that tent at the back, and a great amount of amusement. The Irish are renowned for being absolute classic wits, and there were tears of laughter on board, and some great stories being told this morning, which we might possibly draw a veil over. As the Irish tricolour flies on that flag, they're going to escort the fleet some of the way back to Ireland, to Galway, and then one of their sister ships is going to take over. So we're going to see now if we can get back to Frank Camas. Frank, can you hear us? He's putting his headset on, so hopefully soon we'll be able to get hold of him. Frank Camas, tell me when... are you hearing us, Frank?
Hello.
Hello, Frank.
How are you?
Well, I'm very well, but not as well as you. How does it feel?
It was a very good day for us. Many people were waiting that, so we are very happy to finish like that. We were already in good position because the third was our goal this morning, just behind the Puma. But so there was no fever on board, no more ambition, but we take opportunities to overtake the two boats in front, and it was a very good goal.
Frank, congratulations. A very quick word for your French fans in French, please.
Merci à tout le monde, parce qu'aujourd'hui c'est un très grand jour pour nous, et on voit énormément de public sur l'eau à Lorient. Il fait beau, il y a du vent. Je crois que ça a été un beau spectacle. Ça a été évidemment un très beau spectacle pour nous, et de vous voir tous autour de nous, c'est génial.
Au revoir, Frank Camas. Congratulations. We'll talk with you tomorrow. So there it is. We're going to pack it up here now in Lorient from the Volvo Ocean Race, from an absolutely ecstatic Groupama. That is the perfect boat, the complete race by our overall winners. One hand on the trophy, maybe it is that 1.5. From Lorient in France, we wish you good afternoon.